and welcome to the Neoprene Playmat. I'm your host, Matt Piak, and this is Tastes on Tuesday, where we essentially dive into what my tastes are in games and why they are that way. So today's episode was actually inspired by a conversation I had late last night after returning from a game night, and I was looking over my games, and as you've probably heard on the channel, I talk a lot about co-ops and I talk a lot about head-to-head two-player games, and I started to realize that those are typically very, very different styles of games. In a cooperative game, everybody is working together. It's really easy to kind of bring somebody into it and bring them along without crushing anyone's hopes and dreams. And you can kind of teach as you go. Where on the flip side, a two-player head-to-head game is usually meant to be pretty cutthroat. It's usually meant to be pretty competitive. And sometimes it's hard to bring somebody into a game like that and deliver an enjoyable experience. A lot of times, the person that's played it more often and has a better understanding for it is just going to beat down on a new player. And so I started thinking about this and trying to understand maybe my where that comes from and why I feel that way. And so I've mentioned this before, but I was a big Magic player growing up. I played in tournaments a lot. I played mostly standard, and I really enjoyed my time there. And you were just trying to build the best deck you could, and from there take that and win 2 out of 3 in different games, and hopefully leave with store credit and things from just essentially beating enough people, right? Getting booster packs and whatnot. And so there was an element there where you were really competitive. You were really trying to figure out the best way to win, almost at any cost. That sounds strange. I usually wouldn't say at any cost. I'm not saying like you're cheating or anything, but you're not necessarily worried about the fun that the other player is having. You're mostly concerned about making a strategy that's going to be effective to bring you the win. And we've seen different decks that have gone across the tournament that people complain about because they're not fun to watch, or just the way their mechanics work and things, they're just not super exciting. And for me, I always played blue, white, black control decks, which, if you know anything about Magic, that is essentially making sure the other person can't do anything. There's counter spells from the blue side of things, there's kill spells from the black side of things, and then white has things like board wipes and ways to exile cards and all of that. And so the goal of the game is to essentially shut down your opponent, make it so that they can't do anything. And then you just kind of stall the game out until you have what you need to win. Usually it's a large creature or a bunch of small ones. Black, sometimes it's vampires or things like or even with blue, there's sometimes a kraken or a sphinx or something like that you use to kind of close out the game. All that said, it's been a while since I've been on the Magic scene too, so I'm probably speaking from a past lens. But all of that said, your main concern was creating something competitive, something that would win, and I really enjoy that because it pushes my mind in different ways. It makes me really think through how my play is going to affect the other player, and really think through my strategy and how I'm going to approach the game. That said, you also are going to make a lot of people angry. I know I've played games in Magic before where I've caused somebody to flip a couch over, which was a pretty interesting experience, but or just, you can just tell sometimes you make a move, and I've been accused of being a baby seal clubber, which I try my best not to do, but like I said, in two-player games, it's really difficult a lot of times just by the way they're structured. And if you've never heard that term, baby seal clubber, essentially what that means is you're taking somebody new and fresh to the game and you're just beating them over the head. You're doing something that they can't really stop, and it can be really easy to fall into that trap when you're playing something that's head-to-head and really, really competitive. And so I think that's really what started drawing me to co-ops was, well, yes, I love thinking through strategy and building decks and finding ways to kind of exploit the system of the game for my favor. In a cooperative experience, you're now doing that as a team. You're trying to solve the puzzle as a collective group. You're not trying to put another player in their place or trying to overrun the other player in a way that they can't stop you. Rather, you're trying to figure out how to do that with them to overrun the game. And I found that it leads to, one, a lot better teaching sessions, but two, a lot better experience for those that don't have kind of that same competitive nature. For me, when I get whooped on in a card game, I want to play it again and I want to figure out how I'm going to win, how I'm going to do something different, or how I'm going to exploit the system in a new way to bring about a better outcome for myself. But not everybody's wired that way. Sometimes when you get beat down in a board game, you're just trying to have fun. You're not necessarily trying to be the best player at doing a certain thing. And so that the co-op is a way that you can invite different types of gamers into the system where it's more about collaboration and working together. And so I guess all of this is to say that while I realize that two player head-to-head combat card games and things like that aren't anywhere close to what a cooperative game is, they're kind of polar opposites. They both have kind of this special place in my heart because of the types of experiences they lend and the way they make gaming accessible to different people. And so overall, the last few years, as I look at my collection, the sides that continue to grow are these really like head-to-head tight. It doesn't always have to be like a 2-player card game. Those are just kind of I guess that's the fullest extent of this, but there's plenty of Euros that I really like that are cutthroat as well. I can think of, especially if you've ever played the 2-player variant. I guess it's kind of a variant. Maybe it's not. The 2-player version of Lorenzo Il Magnifico, where you cover a bunch of spots on the board. It's not different in gameplay in any way, but there is. It's way tighter than a usual game because you're covering up so many spaces. So you're going to be able to lock each other out. Things like that. I love that. I think that competition level and that it puts you in the framework where you're not only paying attention to what you're doing, you're also paying attention to what the other players are doing at the table. And I really enjoy that. That gets me into a very thinky, very competitive headspace. Whereas cooperatives are, once again, a totally different headspace. It's how can we come together? How can we figure out how to pool our resources? And how can we figure out how to combine what we're doing in order to have the best outcome for everyone at the table? And so while these are two totally different things, we don't always have to game for the same reasons. We can game to get different things out of it. And that's why it's beautiful that there's so many different genres in board gaming, and that so many people are drawn to different styles of games. And so that's pretty much it. That's why I love co-ops, and that's why I like head-to-head stuff. They're totally different. They're polar opposites, but they both sit at kind of the top of my wish list as far as games I want to play. So I'm interested to hear below. Write in your comments. Do you have any maybe counterintuitive sounding pairings that you like? Do you like two things? Maybe you're really into heavy Euros and thematic Ameritrash games. I don't know if that's still the term we use, but that's a term I like to use, and we'll probably continue to use it. But or do you? And what's the reason for that? Why do you like those pairings of games, even though they're so different? What do they bring you? If you have any questions for me, maybe what my favorite co-ops are, or if you want to know what my top 10 two-player head-to-head card games are, just check out my latest top 10 list. But other than that, love to hear from you. Let me know. This has been the Neoprene Playmat. Have a great day.